Alright, welcome back to another Fast and the Furious Friday, baby. Today's movie is obviously going to be Too Fast, Too Furious, the sequel to Fast and the Furious. And it's a whole new, style. Let me tell you something. Too Fast, Too Furious is a whole new style from Fast and the Furious. And I'm going to say it right now before we even get to the movie. I like it. I love this movie because just like in the previous, video I made, I talked about my favorite movies. And one of them being Jurassic Park 3. For the sole fact that I had it on DVD as a kid and I kept on watching it. Same thing for Too Fast, Too Furious. So I might be a little biased, but you get the point, right? But Too Fast, Too Furious takes place in Miami. And it takes place after, I say a couple months, maybe, a couple months after the events of Fast and Furious. And what happens after that? Well, we actually get to see that because they actually make a prelude to Too Fast and Furious, essentially recapping what happened in Fast and the Furious, where Brian now becomes a fugitive because he let Dom go. And obviously he's getting hunted down by the cops because he literally let the biggest guy they were after go. So he goes from city to city getting money via street racing, upgrading cars, leaving cars because one of his cars got confiscated, RIP the car, until he ends up in Miami, where he actually gets not really a name, but somewhat of a name. He gets into the whole street racing culture. And we actually get to see one of the two reoccurring characters, or main characters, in the Fast and the Furious franchise, and that is Tej. That's right, Tej. He has a ginormous afro. For what reason? I have no idea, but I love it. I love his hair. But we get to see him as the organizer of the street racing community, where three racers actually want to race, but they can't race without a fourth one. And they're like, man, why can't we just race together? Be like, oh, you're going to be racing home. That's what you're going to do. Like, damn, bro. Yeah, chill on that. Until, Tej obviously has Brian's number. He calls him up and says, hey, man, we need a fourth racer. He says, all right, bet. I need the money. So he pulls up with his Mitsubishi. I love that word, man. Mitsubishi. I love the car. That's my favorite car of the franchise, man. I love it. You can probably already tell from the aesthetic of the movie. Very colorful. Very colorful. See, they end up racing with, some other characters that do end up coming back in the movie, but they're not really important characters, but, they're funny. Let me tell you something. Too Fast, Too Furious has a lot of comedy in it. I like it. I like the comedy in this movie, man. So they end up racing with, for some reason, one of the biggest things happening in the movie. One of the most, I would say, best scenes in the movie is the bridge ramp scene where they're racing until they're like, hey, man, we need to spice things up. So you know what they do? They lift up the bridge where they have to jump over it. Like, god damn. And everyone does it, and let's just say certain things happen. One of them just straight up crashes. The other one destroys her whole front end of the car, and the other one just, he just like me for real because he does not jump it. He says, nah, man, I'm out. I do the same. And you know what the dumber thing is the girl, which her name is Suki, ends up jumping the damn ramp and destroying her car, even though Brian was absolutely cooking them in the race. The only person that was actually beating him or actually competing with him was this dude. And he ended up crashing. But everyone, so it was essentially just 2v2, right? Brian and this dude, I don't even know his name. It's not important. Were essentially neck and neck, and the other two were neck and neck too. But like I said, Suki destroys her front end of the car in a jump, even though she knew she wasn't going to win, and she lost money, and she's going to have to pay money to repair the car. But it doesn't matter, because Tej and her got a little thing going on, I think. Things be really, I don't get it. So Brian ends up winning the race, obviously, because, when you race against the best, you learn a thing or two. But, just like every street race, the cops end up coming. And we actually learn about this new device. And it's like an EMP rod or a harpoon gun, right? They shoot the car and the car just dies. That's it. It just dies. It can't drive no more. Nothing happens. It's just dead. So then Brian ends up getting arrested. But the thing is, customs office or whatever the hell type of division of cops is that are actually after some big name dude, which we learn is some dude named Verone, Carter Verone. And lucky for Brian, his old boss from LA is here. So he's over like, Nah, man, let's not arrest him, right? He's a good racer. We need people like him. So they end up saying, hey, man, you go undercover again and help us take down this drug trafficker, and your whole record gets erased. But you're going to need a buddy because, Verone needs some drivers to help export some money. And they need two people, so a pair. So they first asked some, like, Ricky Cop? And then Brian obviously tests him by saying some car fun facts or whatever the hell he'd be saying. And then it turns out the dude does not know anything about cars. He says, nah, this dude ain't gonna work. We're gonna get caught within like a second. Which is really weird because the things that be telling him, that never happens in the movie, bro. Verone or any henchman doesn't even tell them about cars. They don't do that. So whatever, man. So he actually gets to choose his partner, which is his old childhood friend, Roman Pierce, who got put to jail because he did some illegal stuff. Obviously, you go to jail for illegal stuff. And let's just say Roman he's not a real big fan of Brian. Because why? Because he's a cop. He got arrested. You get the point. He says, you got me in jail, Brian. Why'd you do that to me? Yeah, Brian's all like, I ain't do nothing, man. You got yourself in jail. Get out of here. And they start beating each other up for some reason. I mean, I like Brian and Roman's dynamic, man. It's the best part of the movie. And since they're the two main characters, you got a lot of it. It's going to be real fun. So after Roman, lets off some steam, obviously, because he's in jail. He has a whole ankle bracelet and he can't leave his house, like 100 feet from his house. So, he's understandably pissed. So he has to end up living in a trailer right next to his job, which is a demolition driver, I think it's called. Demolition derby driver. You get the point. So after, everything settles down a little bit, they get two new cars. But they get two new cars and they get info about this whole little test Verone's doing so he can find new drivers. So him and Roman end up getting the new cars, which Roman picks the convertible for, obvious reasons. Brian ends up with the yellow car, a very, very stylish car. So they end up driving with another undercover cop. Her name is Monica. And she's been undercover for about a year, where she sleeps with Verone. Literally, man, I'm just saying. Like in the same house, in the same mansion as Verone. So Monica ends up driving with Brian, and Brian ends up trying to rizz up Monica. Obviously, because you know what we learn? Brian is a simp. That's right, Brian the dog from Family Guy and Brian from the Fast and Furious movies are, they're both simps. So he ends up trying to rizz her up, even though Roman's like, bro, don't do that, man. You're gonna get us killed, man. You're gonna try to rizz up Verone's girl, because that's the whole, undercover shtick, right? And they end up at the mansion where, like, two other groups end up being there for the test. And Verone's like, all right, I'm going to need... My Ferrari got impounded in Miami, by the way. This takes place in Miami, if I got to tell you. So they have to end up going. They start racing on the freeway. But, things start going down. Y'all thought Fast and the Furious got kills? Kills happen at the end of the movie. You know what? This dude, someone dies within the first quarter of the movie. He tries to go in between two semis and gets ran over by the semi. That dude's dead. He died, man. Too Fast, Too Furious don't play around. So they actually end up going to the impound and finding the Ferrari. But one thing that they didn't know is that the cops didn't know that Brian and Roman were getting tested. Because they put GPSs in the car, obviously, because you're putting two fugitives undercover. You might as well GPS them, right? So they think, damn, they're running, right? So they end up going to the impound, and they're all like, oh, they're running, we can't let that happen. So the cops end up at the impound, they're like, what the hell are they doing here? They shouldn't be here, obviously, because why are they cops right there? They shouldn't be no cops. I mean, then again, they are like speeding and swerving into traffic, and someone literally got ran over. So, cops kind of should get, alerted, just saying. But they do end up getting the package that Verone wants from his Ferrari and end up bringing it to him, which ends up just being a cigar. Why? Because it was a test. Why? Because his Ferrari wasn't impounded. Like he said, why would I let my Ferrari get impounded? Because he owns that lot. So, it was just a whole test, right? He owns everything, even though Roman did shatter his window, even though it was unlocked. It was pretty funny. Very funny part of the movie. So they're like, all right, you passed the test. So they end up confronting the cops in what was it, like a abandoned fast food place, where they get mad at the cops, understandably, because, well, they almost blew their cover. And the cops are also mad, understandably, kind of. They're a little less understandably mad because obviously they didn't know they're getting tested, so they thought they were running. And then Roman started shooting at them. So, they could, there's this whole problem. But Roman, he did learn that he lets Dom go in LA. And also, he has a little thing for women, right? He's a simp. If you get what I'm saying, not really simp. You get the point. But you get the point. He has a problem with women. He tries to raise up too many. And there's an underlying thing that Roman thinks Monica is compromised because, as he says, and I quote,
"Nah, there's only one problem.
What's that?
Fuentes? Verone's tapping her."
Tapping her? Tapping her how?
Verone's been tapping her. Tapping her? What does that mean? I don't know. I don't know my Urban Dictionary. But they do end up getting invited to a club. So essentially get some intel, right? Because he says, all right, you're my new driver. You're going to be driving money. And I'm going to find you a 15-minute window so the cops don't try to get you. So they go, obviously, trying to find the plan. Where they see a cop that's on Verone's payroll get essentially tortured because he didn't want to do what Verone wanted him to do. He couldn't get him his 15 minutes. So you know what he does? He does one of the most brutal torturing methods in human history. Not the most, because there's way worse. But, he gets a bucket, he puts a mouse in there, and he starts heating up the bucket. Saying, when the bucket and inside the bucket gets too hot, the mouse has nowhere to go but down. And you know where down is? You could probably tell. And you shouldn't be scared when the mouse is squeaking. You should be scared when the noise stops. Very, very, very scary words from him. And we get to see this happening, and I don't like it. Fast and Furious loves their interrogation scenes, man. So, he's very much like, oh, I hate people who double cross me, and I hate cops, right? Essentially telling them, I might know who you are. You might know who you are. And, just to say, you mess up once, you dead. So they realize, damn, this dude mean business. Obviously, he's a drug lord. And they're like, well, the cops' plan ain't going to work because they're going to try to ambush him. So he says, you know what? We have to make our own plan. So the way they do it is by winning 2 more cars. The muscle cars that were another group in the test. Yeah, they just took their cars by winning them in a race. And they actually won, not because their cars were better, because no matter how many times you upgrade your car, American Muscle is always better than it. Every single time, American Muscle is better than your $2 million upgraded car. So the way they win is Brian tries to do what is encouraged. I don't know what to do, but they drive right in front of each other, right? And obviously someone's going to brake and going to swerve away. The muscle car dude ends up swerving away. Why? Because, well, he doesn't want to end up dead. So he ends up swerving and stopping his whole car and just messing up the whole race, where Brian makes a comeback and wins the race. And like I said before, muscle cars are OP. I didn't know how OP they are in this universe. Are they this OP in real life? Because the dude wasn't even doing anything. They were just shifting gears and stuff while Brian was using NOS. And he barely won. He barely won. Even with using NOS. So that's really, really OP stuff right there. But we get another important information is that Monica sneaks into Brian's home, which is a boat. Yeah, life hits hard, Brian. I get that feeling, bro. But he tells them, hey, they're gonna make you drop it off at the airstrip, and they're gonna end up killing you. They're gonna kill you at the end of the delivery, and I can't let that happen, right? But you know who also followed them? The 2 goons that Verone has. I forgot to mention, yeah, he has 2 goons, and we actually do see them, following around Brian and Roman. Good thing Roman knows what to do, and he lights their windshield on fire. So, good on you, good on you, Roman. You know what to do. But they do actually try to find where Monica is, because Monica isn't at home, and they're like, where she went. So they end up, first of all, almost killing each other, because Brian gets one of the goons in, a gun to his chest, and the other one gets Roman with a gun to his head. So they're like, stop that gun, drop that gun, I'm gonna shoot him, I'll shoot him right now. So Verone gets out of here, they're like, hey man, snap out of it, bro, y'all trying to kill each other. So they realize, damn, we actually might die. So, so Roman is all like, alright, so we either do it and we die, or we don't do it and we spend the rest of our lives in jail, until they realize, let's bail on the police. So they start enacting their plan. I don't know. And then we get more important information that the reason why Brian let Dom go in the original movie was because he couldn't get Roman out of jail. He felt guilty. So, and also because Dom became his friend. So he's over there like, well, I couldn't keep one friend out of jail. Why would I do it twice? So he lets Dom go because of that reason. So that's very sweet. It's very sweet because Roman even knows that Brian wasn't at fault, but emotions and stuff. Very emotional scene, and it's very good. Very good. I like this movie, by the way, if you can't tell. So he started doing the plan to smuggle money, where the cops start going on him because the dude that was on the payroll ended up not, doing what Verone said. So he just called the cops and they're like, get him. So the cars start driving away, obviously, because, it's still supposed to be undercover. So they go into this garage, and this is where their master plan happens. A ton of cars come out of the garage, like the entire street racing community comes out. You could even see like a monster truck in there. Like, what's a monster truck doing in there? And then they switch cars. The GPS cars end up being driven by Suki and Tej. But they don't know that, obviously. They don't know that those cars are being driven by them. While Roman and Brian and the two goons that are driving with them now because they had to, and the money, end up driving away in a different car, that being a muscle car. So there's 2 cars, 2 bags of money in each car, and 2 people in each car. And they're driving away. And they actually added one more thing to their plan. And you know what that is? Yep, they add ejection seats. That's right. They eject one of the goons. Roman ejects his. He's over like, ejectocito, cuz, get out of here, bruh. And he gets out. You're like, all right, Brian, I did my part. What about you? And we actually learn that the meetup spot isn't at an airstrip. It's at a port. This is very important. So Brian's are like, all right, change the plan. We have to go. I'm going to have to go to the port, obviously, because the dude's over there like, well, I have a gun. So you got to do what I say. So they end up at the port. They realize, hey, man, I never told anyone about the airstrip. Except one person. Monica. So that's how they find out. Monica is a cop. They were like, all right, I'm going to take Monica and we're about to leave to her inevitable death, to the boat, where they take the money. And the goon that Brian was driving with has to take Brian out. He says, I like you, man, but I have to kill you. He, in fact, did not kill him because Roman comes out of nowhere with a muscle car and just slams into the other cars, where Brian ends up beating the hell out of the goon. And this fight scene is so funny for no reason. I like it. You could tell I like the movie. I'm going to keep saying it. It's a really funny scene. Well, first of all, he starts biting Brian. And then Roman comes out of nowhere and they start jumping him, literally, and then they just leave him. They leave him after kicking him 3 extra times. Yeah, they didn't like him. So you know what they do, right? People always say Fast and the Furious becomes a really weird franchise after a while. In the second movie, for the climax, they drive a muscle car off of a dock, flying into the air, into a boat. That's the final. That's like the huge action scene, where they end up shooting Verone and sending him to jail. Where Roman gets a little scared because he was talking smack to Verone, like, oh man, don't drop the soap, big homie. And then Brian's like, hey man, when he escapes, he's gonna kill you. They're like, ah man, he ain't escaping, right? And then Verone gets up and says, I'll see you later, man. Like, wait, what? Whoa. So they end up getting their records clean, but also $200 million. Why? Like Brian says, his pocket ain't empty, cuh. And Roman does the same thing, because you know why? Because they 2 peas in a pod. Where they end up starting, you know why? Because there's only 3, they only accounted 3 bags of money, and you obviously know there was 4, so they took 1 bag of money, so they start their new life in Miami, and that's the end of the movie. I like this movie. It's a really good step up from Fast and the Furious. I like the movie a lot. But like I said, I'm not gonna rate it, unfortunately, because that's for the later video. But in next week's video, we about to go overseas to Tokyo. That's right. Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift is the third movie in the series, which actually is not the third in the timeline. It's actually way later. So, you know, that's a thing. Yeah, that's right. Fast and the Furious has a timeline. So, yeah. But anyways, just gotta wait until next week for that movie review. But anyways, that's the end of the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.